Welcome to the InfoGov Hot Seat Vodcast, featuring candid interviews with practitioners, consultants, and solution providers on hot topics in the information governance industry. Here's your host, Jim Merrifield.
Well, hello and welcome to InfoGov Hot Seat. I'm your host, Jim Merrifield, and with me today is Jed Cawthorne at Shinydocs. Welcome, Jed.
Hey, Jim. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you on the hot seat today. So we have a few questions. Promise I'll be as nice as possible. I'd like to ask you a brief introduction of your role, how long you've been with the company, and also one fun fact about yourself.
Sure. So I am the grand sounding principal evangelist for Shinydocs, which is a really cool and interesting role because I'm not just evangelizing our software, as in sales. I'm actually involved in, I guess you would say, evangelizing for the whole information governance, information management industry. And educating potential customers and users as to the benefits of not just what we do, but also our partners, our friends, even our competitors. I'm just trying to get the whole message out there about the potential benefits of doing good stuff. Joined last September. Prior to that, because I know a lot, you're in legal, and I think a lot of the viewers are. Prior to that, I did 3 years with Net Documents as a director of product management. So left on good terms. Love my Net Document friends, in case any of them are watching. And the interesting fact is I know how to wield that thing, and I used to teach people that the teaching has kind of dropped off thanks to COVID, because the club I used to go to kind of fell by the wayside during the pandemic. But as the historical flags, I'm a bit of a reenactor and a history buff. But if you need lessons, I can teach you 14th century Italian longsword.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I guess I better be nice to you.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks for sharing that. It's cool. You got a legal background, Net Documents. Thanks for the introduction with Shinydocs. Cool title as an evangelist.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your team. What's the makeup of your internal team focused on governance, software, maybe even specifically records management, but you don't have to be tied to just the records management team.
Sure. So I would say the size of the team is the whole of Shinydocs. We focus on information management and information governance, including records management, and I'll touch on that again in a minute. But we have grown. We got funding this year. I would say probably from 35, 40 people last year, just before I joined, we're up to about 90. With some recent hires in the last week or two. So, we're a growing company with funding to fuel that growth. And everybody is focused on the key products, and those are really, focused on the core of information management, information governance. We can do some records management stuff, like help people find and classify their records. So, really, the whole company is the team.
Oh, that's great. One big happy family.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk. Yeah, what'd you say?
Cross-border family too, because we're a Canadian company, but we have US employees. So, nobody in Europe or Australia yet, but I'm sure we're working on it.
Yeah, for sure. And congrats on that funding too. I saw that that release. It's nice to see that Shinydocs is continuing to grow, and some investors are even spending some money with you. So that's awesome. So let's talk about the competition a little bit. What's some key differentiators between you and the competition, would you say?
Yeah, I think our product set is split into different parts or modules, kind of based on the personas. I mean, if we imagine, I haven't got any visuals, but if we imagine a split down the middle, one side is information managers, records managers, data stewards. The other side is end users. And the split is our data discovery product is for the records managers, the data stewards, and then our enterprise search product is more for the average end users. And all that to get to your question of what differentiates us, and I would say that is our the way we attack the problems of information management and information governance with that holistic approach. So the data discovery side of the house, the core product, lots of connectors to different repositories and systems, and it will go out and it will index, it will crawl and index everything to build what we generally refer to as the inventory. Other people can do that. Other people can do what we do around data enrichment and adding metadata and things like that. But most of our competitors do not then have an enterprise search offering built on top of that index. Vice versa, most of the enterprise search companies don't have the capabilities we have to do the front end data discovery and data enrichment. I have a bit of a history in search, and I will always say that, your search engine can be really good, but if you don't put the effort into the metadata and, other aspects of organizing your data and enriching it, you're not giving your search engine the right stuff to work with. So I say, what differentiates us is the two sides of the house. They're deeply connected. They feed each other. And so whether you're looking to, as a records manager, to, find and classify records, maybe migrate them somewhere, we can fulfill that. But at the same time, if you're let's go back to the legal kind of use case. If you're in a firm and you've got some stuff in the DMS, say it's iManage or Net Documents, and you've got some stuff on the intranet, maybe in SharePoint, and, God forbid, but you've still got some stuff, probably terabytes of stuff hidden in file shares, then we can connect to all of it and give you a single search. So you might not have that mythical one single source of truth. Nobody really ever puts everything in one repository, even though we talk about it a lot. But
For sure,
we can help you synthesize a single source of truth by helping you search across all those different places.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, right? You got to be able to find the information you're looking for, right? I mean, it's one thing to store it, and I definitely echo your words about having data in multiple repositories, right? So it's almost like that enterprise search is that dashboard, right? That maybe us as governance professionals can, pop on our screen, maybe go to a URL and be able to see all of our data, right, in one place. Is that the idea?
Yeah, dashboards is something I didn't mention. Like if you're that left-hand side persona and you're the records manager or the data steward or information manager, once you've got an inventory, and in our case it is an actual index with loads of different fields of metadata in there, then you can produce dashboards that can drill down and not just help you manage it in an operational way, but hopefully like derive insights. So I keep trying to come back to a legal example, so tell me if I go slightly off track, but if you're trying to figure out how many matters are in flight versus how many get opened, like say on a daily or weekly basis, as opposed to how many getting closed, which teams are working on them, on average, how many documents are aligned to a matter, and those documents can be in the DMS, They can be elsewhere, as we've just discussed. So, you could go and have a look at a dashboard and you could drill into a particular matter, or you could be doing it for those who might be watching, who are outside legal, of big engineering firms as customers who they like to look at, really weird things like how many how many wellheads contain this part number, and which seems very obtuse, but we can actually help people with that. And you go in and you search, and then we link to the GIS system, and it shows you these wellheads where this particular pump or valve is. So the use cases are many and varied.
Wow, that's so cool. Definitely, both on the legal side and the energy side with the wells and stuff like that. So you can really track anything, right? It depends what you want to report on, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
and if you've got a good idea of what you want to report on, that's great. The interesting thing is lots of customers don't. So where we do also have some good experiences is listening. So talking, or rather letting the customer or prospect talk and figuring out or helping them figure out exactly what it is they're looking for and exactly what it is they want to do. Because you'd be surprised how sometimes that morphs as the conversation progresses.
oh yeah, I'm sure. Now, we talked a little bit about product features, talked about enterprise search and dashboards and reporting. But is there anything that, I don't know how much you can get into it, but is there anything that you're focused on, that Shinydocs is focused on specifically, and why?
Focused on at the moment, yeah, we can divulge a little bit of roadmap without getting too much into the secrets. I guess we will be addressing what is often referred to as the IDP market, the intelligent document processing. We've got some clever, what's the right term? Image-based AI rather than natural language processing. So it's not reading the text of a document, but it's actually examining it on a pixel by pixel level. And there are patents pending on that. And again, there are other IDP firms who can do that too. But I think once we get that out of the door and get that to market, what will be a differentiator is the way we build that into the existing product set and the way we can use it to solve customer problems. And then another one, which I've been doing some market research on, which is, I think, really cool, is helping people who don't want to migrate off of the file shares. So it always surprises me how much, and this was like a Net Documents experience too, not just like with Shinydocs when we're talking to people, but how many people are still working in file shares and how many people have pretty good reasons for not migrating off. So when we talk to customers, they might go, hey, all this stuff is really valuable. In a legal context, we're going to put it in Net Documents. In a non-legal context, maybe we're going to stick it in SharePoint. But this other stuff, well, we have to keep it. It's on a retention schedule and we can't delete it for another 7 years, but I really don't want to stick it in SharePoint. So, they can come up with good reasons for retaining file shares. So we've been looking at how we can help add basic document management and basic records management functionality to that content that stays in the file share. And I'm doing market research, I guess you would call it. The developers are working on it. We don't really even have a name for it yet. So it won't be, well, who knows? We might be able to release something to market this year. But I actually think it will be quite interesting because I'm not finding a lot of competition that will do this. And there really does seem to be a need for it. And, maybe anyone who's watching can reach out via LinkedIn and say, dude, you're crazy. We're all moving everything to Box. Like, what is wrong with you, Jed? But I've got the feeling that more people would approach me, hopefully, and say, dude, you're onto something, because I've got like a terabyte of data still sat in file shares. And I'd love to talk to those people. because, more market research is all good.
Oh, for sure. No, it's cool that you're doing that. And, listen, file shares, I don't think the pandemic did us any favors, right? Because it's so easy to work decentralized, pop up that OneDrive and just, OneDrive is essentially a file share, right? And, store all your data in OneDrive and share it out when you can. And it's just, the least path of resistance, if you will, right?
Well,
It's simple.
Interestingly, like talking to some, really good industry analyst friends about this, the momentum prior to COVID was to get stuff up into the cloud. And then that only increased because that actually helps with remote working. And we found this at NetDocuments too. We expected at the beginning of the pandemic things would slow down, and they actually sped up as people tried to execute projects and help people working remotely. So cloud is good for remote work. But now it's slowed down again. And even with that move to cloud-based systems to facilitate remote working, people were concerned with what they needed to get done there and then to help their employees with the immediate. The legacy stuff wasn't so important, and so it didn't get touched. And so, that's come back now, and we see, more. Generally, all information is exploding. You know that, Jim. Our listeners, your listeners, watchers know that. It doesn't matter what we do, we can't put the cork back in that bottle. The pure volumes of data are only ever going to increase. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, that still includes file shares as well as Box and SharePoint and iManage and NetDocuments and everything else we can think of. So it would appear that they're not going away anytime soon, which is why we think it might be a good idea to help people work with them, kind of like, instead of working against them.
No, for sure. And storage, used to be storage is cheap, but it's not that cheap anymore, right? So,
well, good point. I mean, really, was it ever really that cheap? Microsoft, Amazon, and Google might have convinced us to think that way, but yeah.
For sure, right? Combination of, probably cost and the privacy regulations and security regulations as well, right?
Yeah,
something to think about.
Just like the volume, just like the volume of data, the volume of regulations is just ever increasing, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable. But so let's I'm going to ask you to put your future hat on, right? So let's fast forward into the future, right? Next 3 years, the information governance industry. I know you're doing a lot of market research. You're engaged in a lot of, I'm sure you have some speaking engagements coming up, and you're attending some conferences, right? What do you think the next 3 years, what do we have in store as information governance professionals? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good. I'm really good at history. I'm not so good at crystal ball, but as a fellow of AIM, and the AIM membership, we've been doing a lot of discussions around this because trying to figure out the future of the association. And so this has come into play. It's like, where do we see the immediate future and the midterm future? So things obviously that spring to mind is AI. And I'm sure you've seen, that Chat GPT-4 can pass the LSAT with a reasonable score, which is maybe kind of worrying. But I also remember when I was in the in the corporate legal division at BMO, we had a researcher from Toronto U who was working with IBM on Watson, came in and told us, don't send your kids to school to be lawyers or radiologists because AI will be, reading the contracts and it will also be looking at the x-rays. That's not quite come true yet, but we can see it's inexorably kind of marching in that direction. I think it might just be a case of the level of detail. So yeah, I mean, we've already got it. in the legal tech space, right? There are plenty of vendors selling AI-based contract management solutions, whether that's, reading your paper and making sure it's got the right clauses in it, or whether it's reviewing incoming other parties' paper to review it and draw your attention to things, or whether it's first cut of e-discovery. So I'm not a gloom and doom Rise of the Machines, Terminator Judgment Day kind of pessimist. But I also think there's a lot of hype around things like ChatGPT, and we'll need to figure out where the truth lies.
No, for sure. I mean, I was looking at the conferences that I'm looking to attend, or even just webinars. I mean, everything's about ChatGPT, right? Whether you're a law firm or a company, everybody's looking into AI, how you can leverage it, how should we protect against it, how can we secure it, should we allow our employees to use it, right? So it's just all I've never seen so many different topics out there, blog posts, webinars, whatever.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting. I agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see how ChatGPT affects our world, because it's really affecting every professional's world today. So
yeah, and I think what you point out there, though, and like what everybody should go do, what they take away from your comment there is go read, because there are opposing views on how good it is, how accurate it is, what it's able to do. And I don't think anyone needs to, and hey, I work for a software vendor, and I'm going to tell you, don't fall for the vendor hype. Be critical in your assessment of what it can do for you, but go do the research, because there is some good tech out there which could be very useful.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, right? Don't believe everything you hear. To go do your own research and come to your own conclusions, right? It's like, I don't know if you have children, but it's like, look, I can guide you, but I can't make your decisions, right, for the rest of your life. Right?
Exactly.
So it's kind of like that, right? You got to do your own research. So,
and at some point, AI hopefully will turn into our benevolent parent.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the inevitable, right? Hopefully not Rise of the Machines, but I don't know. I don't know when the last Terminator will be, but I don't know. Arnold Schwarzenegger seems to be making movie after movie, Terminator after Terminator. So,
bless him. I'm still going at that age.
Yeah, right. You never know. But listen, Jed, thanks so much for taking the time today and sharing your expertise, allowing me to put you on the hot seat and ask these burning questions. I think this was great. If you'd like to be a guest just like Jed on the hot seat, please fill out that guest form on our website, infogovhotseat.com. We'd love to hear your perspectives. And again, once again, Jed, thank you so much, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day.
Jim, thank you for doing this. I love watching the episodes.
Yeah, you got it. Anytime.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the InfoGov Hot Seat. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and LinkedIn. Check out our main website at infogovhotseat.com to view our latest episodes and much more.